Welcome everyone to this more amazing live stream. SGI time, not Octane but Origin, for the recurring saga here of finally getting latest and greatest kernel without any Gen 2 patches, and also initrd. I keep it short for the details previous videos, mostly initrd, because the only simple thing that the firmware was removed for the SCSI controller, and the Gen 2 people patches have reverted this upstream firmware deletion, and I for the most part did not want to have this firmware revert because I don't want it for the next decade or two drag this firmware upstream reverting stuff with me here around. And anyway, doing this I realized in T2 having the firmware in the initrd a good idea for latest and greatest high-end server stuff anyway. Just so I did this, so all those YouTube stuff here also improved T2 initrd with a firmware packaging, which oversight never needed this. But initrd did not work. I spent previous videos 10 hours, now I spent a couple of 2-3 more hours. So 12, 13, 15, 14 hours in here with this stuff, and we finally have engaged. We have initrd. It's amazing, it's unbelievable. So why this doesn't work? So what this is, of course, with arcload. Also theoretically could move video capture this one there. This is arcload, this unsuccessful one-man recurring joke here. Sgi MIPS loading stuff. So the initrd patch implemented by the Debian people, I shamelessly stolen it there, just didn't work for me. Previously long videos. I still actually, so there you see 12-14 hours in with, yeah, not virtualization, emulation, kernel debugger, bootloader stuff. Also documenting this here recurring theme here when my embedded customers were surprised, like booting some stuff 10 hours. Like, why should we pay this expensive stuff? Like, yeah, stuff just doesn't really work, right? I still have no idea, endless of patches. I like basically rewritten the whole initrd loading, shuffled it around in the memory, all the stuff that people don't believe we do here all day. And so it only works by pure chance and accidents, the latest stuff. So I ended up, after rewriting this here 5 times and in nights and stuff, and more time than I ever wanted to spend on this, yeah, malloc printouts just to see where we allocate our own heap stuff there, and shuffled, because initially I thought the disk loading and arcs in the firmware BIOS clobbered our memory, because also our kernel panic, there you see here, you load the initrd, the kernel panics, yeah, fun stuff, 2019. So I rewrote all the file opening and loading because I thought there's some memory clobbering, even checksummed it here. Previous videos here live on YouTube, implemented checksumming because I thought the initrd loading with the BIOS arcs firmware stuff clobbers our precious kernel here of this checksumming code is still in here, so that is checksumming this and again and again. And you see all those fancy debug printouts, hopefully at least it's somewhat visible on YouTube here, only live on this channel. And initrd loading, so this stuff is really picky, and you can't touch it too much if the moon is in the right location and stuff. So I will later, there you see 15 hours in now, something accidentally works finally. What this means for us is, first of all, I need to check if with the non-patched arcload that it still works. Well, patched and patched. So the big change, previously people in their basement already asked us, where are the patches? Yes, there were no patches because 12, 13, 15, 14 something hours in, nothing really worked here. So in the summary is, if you want to already steal our precious work here, the summary is just moving this 1 megabyte away from the kernel load magically works here now for me. This is the result one-liner, the precious, I estimated it already. I will sit here day and night. At the end it's a one-liner, and again this is only some workaround. I have still no idea why, because as far as I see this should not memory corrupt. I have like zero idea what the kernel doesn't like, or anyway, whatever, at least that is good enough for me. Now we have too many other things to work on, so as long as it works, then whatever, let's leave there. Why is this 1 megabyte? This is 1 megabyte because this page shift here is 4K pages, so that is 256 times 4K pages, should probably be 1 megabyte of 15 hours for. But again, you do not start with this. You think, yeah, memory clubbering, some. Also, I initially thought XFS, because certainly nobody tests XFS versus X2. Here you see now our process loading of the initrd checksumming. That is 538, latest and greatest, nearly latest and greatest upstream kernel for the IP27 here, origin 200. This only, so initrd passing on MIPS here with kernel arguments, so RAM disk start and RAM disk size here as supplied. Also, debugging this back and forth night and day here. Then we have here some more initrd printout somewhere. Where would that be? Somewhere before that, here init RAM disk at something. Here this is also more printouts from me, because I wanted to see, this is the command line parsing, so this is text parsing, right, because 2019 and C. Early parsing here, this arguments, and then with all the sanity checking what previously didn't work. Then initrd at this is of course this previous videos K60 address versus, if you're interested in this very special MIPS physical versus virtual and mapping versus direct and stuff. So this is a K60 segment here, previous videos, special memory regions at MIPS64. Actually, I made a typo. I actually wanted to boot. I have a very small version because I was not yet sure if that actually works. And because I copy and pasted it here from my notes here, setenv, and I wanted to actually load my small initrd without all the kernel modules, but because quickly making a copy and paste. This actually, because I still also was not sure if set standard decompression was working, because I switched T2 initrd to set standard nearly a year ago. This was also another thing, like, is it set standard corrupting or something, because whatever, MIPS64, and I had here not only a small without all the fancy kernel modules, but also not set standard but gzip compressed. But we tested now, not only did we test the bigger one, but also set standard compression, so that also works in MIPS64 most likely. Here you see it here first on this channel, first ever set standard initrd compressed on MIPS64, because it's not even in the kernel. That is the very few stuff that I patch into T2 because set standard, for what it's worth. So yeah, probably most likely first set standard compressed initrd ever here on MIPS64. And also performance, right, XOR measuring, checksumming speed. If you probably have, say, 32 gigabyte a second, nearly 20 years old MIPS64 here, checksumming at not even 500 mbit, but whatever, also write 6 speeds, right, if you were wondering how this. But this is a small, this is a slow, right, this is a slow 180-ish or something R10000. I have a faster 250 megahertz. We can boot Octane another day. But so then you see also this works here now. This is exactly what the Gentoo people have reworked in their kernel, and what when we merged. I noticed that is not cool. This is why I thought I like one afternoon do this, but yeah, you see over 2 days in of time wasted on initrd. This finally freaking works now, QLA, because again, upstream kernel, all the firmware, or not all, I don't know, but most of the more and more firmware deleted. This is why we need this in the initrd, and this actually works. Here, QLA, our fancy SCSI controller, resetting SCSI, but it is exactly that was the only thing. So you see 16 hours, 2 full work days of dedication and too much time and no money on this stuff. Thanks for watching, thanks for all the Patreons. And yeah, this is recurring shout out here, my life, 20 years of already rock Linux. Back in the day, the only thing that still does not work, so we are so much in here, everything, even, by the way, I need to disassemble the Toshiba CD-ROM because it makes scratching noise. probably shouldn't talk while the scratching was scratching. Yeah, so whatever is with this gear there. So CD-ROM disassembly and gear repair, greasing, whatever, coming sometime soon. So we are now 16 hours into this amazing stuff. It finally freaking works by some sheer accident of memory allocation, goodness, whatever. I can only speculate that it's really so strange. I can only speculate that because we have more file I/O, because it should not matter for the Linux kernel, because the really strange thing is this bizarre, most bizarre bug I ever debugged, previous videos, long live stream stuff. What is so frustrating is that it looks already everything perfect, it should work, and what is so strange is I think this is some ARC's memory corruption, whatever stuff, or like memory leak stuff, because the only thing is between working and I test with a working kernel without initrd, and loading an initrd, like you have all the memory there, and just loading an initrd somewhere should make zero difference. Not even so, I already commented out not passing down the initrd to a kernel, not using the initrd, so this should just work. But that memory, kernel panics, that oops is a Linux kernel. So I don't quite see why. The only difference that can be is that the ARC's firmware is allocating some memory and the either is corrupting some memory of its own, and the Linux kernel is whatever getting the memory areas, and I don't know, because it's not using the initrd anyway. But anyway, leaving there some, I mean, this is so bizarre. It's like, this is why you probably never in your life want to waste your time with firmware and bootloaders, because that is, nobody thanks you for that, and that is days and weeks wasted for that stuff. So it looks like it somewhat works. The only thing, which by the way I probably should check, you see I don't get here any boot output, so it's not oopsing or crashing, and it's even extracting here the initrd somewhere. I think there was some printout here somewhere that must probably have been before the SCSI stuff. Here unpacking initrd without error, freeing initrd, so that looks good. And I think the initrd should be fully unpacked because the firmware is in there, right? And when we boot this kernel, this is a vanilla, well, vanilla only very few T2 patches like set standard initrd, or fixing Realtek audio for ThinkPads, also so fun fixes that you probably would want to have in a T2 kernel. The initrd should work. Not only do we not get here any error with set standard stuff, but also the QLogic stuff works here, right? We would not get the QLogic. This would, if we boot this without an initrd, we would get here some direct firmware load failure of not being able to load QLA 12xx dot whatever firmware stuff. So this looks all amazing. Also, we should get, if there is something wrong, we should get an oops here of not Linux kernel panic, not being able to execute the initrd, but we don't get any serial output here. So I'm not using often the initrd of T2 with serial ports, so there must be some small glitch of not having some. Well, initially I didn't even have initrd in there, so yeah, now I have initrd and not initrd in there. Temp def tempfs. But so either the shell opens there, whatever, but there you see I probably most likely debug this in a virtual machine. But again, a little bit frustrating, although it's like so amazing, we finally are getting somewhere, but yet, yeah, we don't have output anywhere. I probably could check the Ethernet link, if whether that is blinking. Well, it is blinking, and we should have, the question is what, don't really want to share it. So we have comments in the audience, so I could actually check if Secure Shell works. I just don't remember the IP address of this thing, so probably, I think I probably, or do I, actually maybe I have it here in, just don't want to expose here everything. Maybe last less if rsync is, that could be 116, does that make sense maybe? Or if config, what is this machine has right now, the bridge, that is on the bridge, this has 201. So let's see if maybe, if we are totally lucky and this machine fully booted, which I'm not sure about, if it had a connection refused, then R. But maybe I'm not starting, that is of course unluck. Very theoretically we could of course press reset and make sure that we start. That would probably be a cool thing. Let's press reset. Hey Chase and everyone else in the audience, let's see, low level code guy, what do you work with? We're working with MIPS bootloader stuff and finally having initrd here live on YouTube with our amazing SGI vintage goodness. T2 SDE project, arcload, which is a software company which makes scanner software and other things. Thanks for that summary. Also, much of the scanner software is reverse engineered, as there are a few public documentation for such things. Thanks for that shout out. Marcos, brilliant work. I wish I could invest time and develop knowledge. Kind of work you do. Yeah, I mean, the only thing is it's a little bit frustrating that it's so much trial and error, right? I wish to more like kernel debugger or JTAG something. It's a little bit, for me, super frustrating that just to keep this vintage stuff alive, it's so much trial and error, not sophisticated computer science work. This is, by the way, here arc stuff. This is our debug printout of, wait a second, did I not, why is this loading 4.8? Or is this, or maybe I actually had a kernel that is possible. Yeah, so this is so slow because serial console. And recurring shout out, normally I would in 2019 actually not spend so much time on this vintage stuff, which my Octane even was in the basement for nearly a decade because whatever wasn't really stable and finally gave a little bit up on that. But two things, not only your entertainment and education, but also trying to build this channel of documenting all the stuff, because other people, other amazing YouTubers certainly showing you the stuff, they usually show it only and don't use it, and I could also only show it like with IRIX, but in my opinion also fun to actually really try to use it. And next, of course, we do this here on the Origin because I personally find the Octane more interesting, but it is totally amazing that a viewer donated here this Origin, which until a year ago I didn't even had. And the cool thing is that the Origin 200 SGI Origin, I don't also soon with second camera again. The cool thing is that it's of course more boring and more loud and less performance, but it is upstream, so it's better for me to compare what is working upstream, especially in terms of initrd, but even that wasn't working upstream with that. Let's see, is this if config is 0, this is actually not that IP address, so much to that, then maybe we did not. Anyway, then let's see if we have, what even was this, 145, okay, so we even have secure shell. Okay, the only other thing is that I'm wondering a little bit, so with this complete boot we have a serial console, so something is going wrong. So probably, wait a second, we can, let's test another thing. I want to test another thing when we already rebooted. Questions in the audience, is there any documentation available for the Arc boot environment? There is probably some documentation for ARCs. This ARCs is also shared with other workstations from other companies, like even Windows NT for MIPS or so used, but people commented there that this documentation often, this open specification often doesn't match real implementation. Also, there are three things. So there is ARCs as the firmware, similar to a EFI BIOS, that is ARC, the SGI firmware. And then there is Arc boot and arcload, being Arc boot and arcload are open source bootloaders like Lilo and Grub. And Arc boot is older and can only boot from X2, I think, and it's linking its arcboot is old and not very convenient. It was already in 2005 not convenient that the Stanislav, who reverse engineered all the stuff, forked it. So arcload, as far as I've seen, arcload is a fork of arcboot, doing the file system stuff a little bit nicer with code inherit from grub. But everything, yeah, eventually maybe we should port another year grub 2 to this stuff. There is an ARCS port of grub, but I think it only supports 32-bit and not 64-bit MIPS machines. So another thing, the good thing is all this work also makes our T2 stuff better. For example, I never needed firmware in the initrd for the regular PC style stuff. And it's only now that they deleted this upstream in the kernel. So with this YouTube stuff you watching and Patreons and fun with this vintage stuff, only due to that we have no support in our keep it stupid simple implementation of all the stuff like initrd to have the firmware in there, which I never needed before. So that is that. It should bring up SSH apparently, as you see here. Then the only other thing, did I mount this? So let's mount that and copy this working oh, wait a second, you need to be a little careful with that. Let's maybe, because I want to keep this working initrd-less kernel, otherwise we can't boot anymore. So this is all this tinkering stuff. No, this is all this tinkering stuff. And let's copy all of this stuff into the root file system, a little bit unclean just for testing. And then this arc, and again, hello, this is somehow not what right, because we probably booted the, because page up doesn't work in this stupid serial terminal, that is why. Confusing stuff. So, the small thing I accidentally did not load, this is my fully manually, hello, stop scrolling. So this is also, by the way, documenting the scrolling speed over a telephone TTY line in decades ago. So let's copy this here with the mouse, because why not? And add this to, this was, do you run this on? This is an Origin 200. Usually I prefer my Octane, but that stuff is not upstream yet and not fully, but we will soon also, actually I was working on that, but then some SUSE person recently submitted something which is cool because it saves me quite some work. So soon bringing hopefully here this Octane stuff more upstream initrd, because platform enablement stuff was submitted by someone from SUSE. Maybe he found his Octane in the basement watching these YouTube videos here, I don't know. But this is only what is sent upstream now, is only the base platform stuff. We still have all the graphic stuff and audio stuff, which I already, because we now have 2 kernels here. Also, I implemented here on YouTube hardware cursor for the impact, and but this is not yet finished. Page 51, juicy stuff, thanks for that. So let's see if we can, because this would now newware, so let's see if, which by the way we maybe should check that we only have one newer kernel, newer, search wrapped, that probably also totally super slow, at least in the, there you see the difference. The boot code shared, copied from legacy grub 1 here in arcload, it's like 10 times slower loading something from X2 than from XFS. So let's test if XFS works, or if some memory corruption is randomly occurring that doesn't work with XFS. So many stuff to test, but at least, yeah. Then also I'm wondering what we also need to check the next is why the initrd doesn't have serial output, whatever we need there. There you see all the details, also even in Linux, all the distributions, serial stuff working at all, and then in the initrd whatever is going wrong there. Not yet sure, maybe a device node missing or whatever the kernel is doing there. This, by the way, is a serial console boot of the Origin 200. And then now we printf just set env here our OS load file name to newer, and let's hope for the best. Yeah, that is so much faster from XFS. That is, yeah. Let's see, let's hope. This is, of course, with, can't load it into, why not did we, initrd is too large. Did I, why would this, couldn't be loaded into current memory map? So much too, area too small. No, the area is slightly too small. That is funny. Maybe this really means that some memory allocation is changing this. So most likely we cannot run printInf now, or we can. Interesting. Then let's change. We can printInf but not sendInf. That really means, I think this should have been the same kernel. So that really means memory allocation changes this. So there really is probably some fishy memory clobbering going on in terms of allocations when we continue to load larger files like the initrd. Otherwise it should have worked just like it did. Let's test this, because the only difference is loading this from this stupid additional. This should, as far as I think, be the same initrd if we didn't make any other typos. Anyway, it appears YouTube does not allow posting links in the chat, post the arcs. Yeah, I really wonder why. You can maybe just post it with a space in there. So, but this, oh no, this is a kernel. So with, if you just not like a auto, but by the way, I don't know why initially. No, this is another initrd, I think. What did I copy there anyway? No, then we test this another day. So most likely, I'm not sure if that will fully boot. But I mean, on the other hand, it doesn't oops. So this is, we can ping this here, of course. Let's see if, of course, right now it's still booting. Let's maybe stop the pinging. Not that we crash some fancy kernel driver. So then probably used another initrd for whatever reason. Welcome everyone. How are you doing? We're doing here mostly fine, especially as we have got some initrd stuff going. A little bit hacked up stuff, but at least it's doing something. So next is running init as init process. So host destination host unreachable. So not really sure if we, actually not sure. I don't usually look onto the let's see, that is, it's hosted on NetBSD. Let's wait a second. I will try to post it here. Ah, cool, show. I really wonder why. Yeah, thanks for that link. Yeah, next we need to find out what is, now we get here some scheduling detected on installed initrd soft IRQ stuff. So yeah, there's still some stuff to do, unfortunately, but we made some progress. Maybe next I will, as a recommendation for you, you most likely want to play in this stuff in emulation. It's so much easier to dump memory, to just edit, compile, run it. Unable to send backtrace IPE2. Perhaps a tongue here, no shit Sherlock, certainly looks like that. Enemy, of course, being a non-maskable interrupt. But yeah, slightly wondering, this is also my experience why I, a decade ago, placed and stored the Sgi Octane into the basement, because of exactly this kind of doesn't boot, is not stable, so whatever. Just that now in 2019 we have exactly this experience again with initrd work. Slightly wonder, theoretically this live stream is already more than too long and family's waiting as usual. It's a little bit of a pity that I booted there, whatever. Chase writes, RISC-V has mostly surpassed OpenRISC. Yeah, my estimation is that from all the architectures in the long term, certainly like in a decade, most likely RISC-V will even overtake ARM, and certainly MIPS. So for all this is also why MIPS open sourced and IBM open sourced PowerPC or something of that sort. My estimation is in the really distant future, we most likely only have RISC-V. That is certainly why we really should get into this here really soon. Let's boot that again. So whatever is going wrong there with the initrd stuff, that is really a pity now. I wonder if we can have an initrd with just the firmware, but most likely the Linux kernel will just oops then that it doesn't have an init process. I'm pretty sure they don't have code there for, like, if there is no init then something, because the code anyway sets the boot device internally. I can actually, maybe I have even here this patch in package base Linux initrd print stuff here of that sort, and here, so it's setting, if it has an initrd, it's setting the root device to root RAM 0. So with this, the kernel of course doesn't continue to boot. But yeah, it's really a pity that we are so close now and yet have some initrd not working stuff. So maybe actually the issue is not even initrd not working due to serial console, but actually it would work if the kernel wouldn't hang. So maybe there is actually some hanging of whatever kernel bugs there with executing some whatever in the system memory. Let's mount our stupid X2. By the way, this was my swap, right? So tip, if you need to tinkering, of course SD81 was my small swap here, and because I needed this for testing, I just MKFS X2 there on that. Let's see, MNT arc, that what did we use there for? It's really annoying that page up and page down doesn't work on this. So small. You know what this? Okay, this is I actually used here the smaller image. Did I? Let's test here. Build MIPS, so that is on the cross-compiled Epic AMD root T, and let's create a really small initrd just for the testing, and delete here all the other firmware. Here already firmware, like move all the QLogic down, RF everything, and move this QLogic back, and then we should have here modules that is already deleted, and then find everything, tar it together, and this time this set standard -19 or so, not sure this or that. Has been MK initrd of -19. That probably did something. That should be this one, just 2 MB, and set standard compressed. Then we have this initrd stuff. This was anyway too large for our modified loading stuff, so SCP. Let's copy here only this named S. What did we? Yeah, capital S. So S in the end to here. And tweak our arcload not to load the wrong one again. That also means actually we didn't test set standard previously, so much to that. Newer S, let's give that one more try. Although I have the feeling this will similar not work, but the more we test the better. More comments there. What about OpenRISC? RISC-V is mostly the parse. RISC-V doesn't seem to have some management. Does seem to have some management problem in the foundation, though, that hosts it. I've been hearing a lot of people unhappy about that. Expected will get forked like LibreOffice. Haven't heard that, but I heard that some people, like on some conferences, are also not the most happy with scheduling stuff, and but that would be really a pity. But I mean, it's open source, you could do whatever, but to have a real good future, certainly there needs to be some coordination of not having overlapped opcodes and stuff. But on the other hand, if some organization is highly inefficient, then maybe better fork it before we have something not developing, like whatever. What did we even name this now? Oops, oh, darn it. Probably, what did we named it newer, right? Newer, oops. So yeah, that would be pretty. So welcome the American to have a video discussion about reverse engineering techniques. Not really too much yet, but maybe in the future. Okay, this is slightly booting, so this loaded also well, this initrd was smaller, but rolling from XFS is so much faster, so it also extracted already because it's scanning the SCSI bus that only works with the firmware loaded. So this init ramfs this time should be really 2.2 megabyte. That is our set standard one, so that set standard stuff also works, just that apparently whatever's going wrong there. Anyway, a lot of progress, at least. Also our Ethernet address is 0, maybe randomly something, or is it not sure, whatever. Yeah, it's a pity, so much progress, and that I wonder, there are always so many regressions on the Octane I know, because due to sheer luck, I have a spare system board for the Octane, although not a good one, a low performance, only 195 megahertz single processor one, because initially I thought it's defect. When I auctioned that on eBay, my first Octane, it came with a dented system board, it was not stable, and then I asked this reseller, hey, is there a chance that this was somehow damaged, whatever, and then they said, we don't care about whatever, do you want to ship it back? I said, I don't really want to ship it back, this huge 25 kilogram monster, but can you do something? Maybe you have a second system board to spare something. I said, yeah, okay, you just pay the shipping. So this is why, due to that coincidence, I have a second system board, and on this single processor system board, Linux, the last time I checked, did not boot, similar with an hanging on non-maskable interrupt, whatever stuff, so much. Actually not a bad thing to have this low performance system board for testing. And probably time to switch it off. Well, we made so much progress, it's really a pity, but there you see always the Linux regressions, right? The same kernel boots without initrd, it's booting, and now that we finally have some initrd somewhat working, it's stuck here in whatever. But probably next I will most likely try the same with the Octane. Maybe we are super lucky and that is going slightly different. If not, I will for sure finally switch to QEMU emulation, because QEMU is so much more handy, snappier, easier to debug. So Stack Exchange, now that's some interesting info on it. Yeah, we will mostly reverse engineering is here. Poke around there, see what you're finding. We will for sure in the future do stuff with that, not only with the bloody NVIDIA RSX on the PS3, which people certainly want to see here. Chase is saying, by the way, let's switch this off, not only save some electrons here for each day for future. So yeah, next the same exercise with Octane. Let's hope that also works somewhat. Maybe we could actually, I wonder if we could patch the Linux kernel of freeing this initrd and continuing it. Even that is certainly not easy. Again, the only why did we do the exercise summary? Because we need to load the firmware now from the QLogic SCSI controller here. So yeah, whatever. Maybe I actually could also for the Octane I anyway use the older 4.18 kernel, so that is something soon. So Chase agrees it's a pity people not work together. From what I understand, people making large contributions without sponsor are just getting ignored on the mailing list. Yeah, this is in general also my grief with the Linux Foundation, and not even recurring theme. You're not the greatest fan of monolithic kernels, because you see one address space, everything goes wrong. And also the Linux Foundation, those people, they are getting a good salary. Linus Torvalds, $500,000 plus pension benefits of, in total, if I read this correctly, over $1 million a year salary for reading and replying emails, which is slightly crazy that all the sponsorship that, although Linus Torvalds certainly deserves some money, but maybe not 1.5 million a year or something. I would be more than happy if this would be spread more to the community. But there you see, if there are people in those positions, I heard even Linux Foundation people making PowerPoint presentations with a MacBook or so. That was once a huge outcry or so, or controversy. That is what I've often seen the problem with foundations. Some people, their management, spreading the money among themselves, and instead of spreading this over 100 or 1,000 people, that people like testing stuff get something, just a handful of 20 people get their $500,000 to 1.5 million. But yeah, if this is not working, like there's also, I read so much, I was never involved in like Xorg Foundation or Linux Foundation, but I also hear a lot of not the most amazing stuff about Xorg Foundation, and maybe merging with whatever they free desktop or whatever they wanted to merge. Anyway, the same thing, not that there was too much money involved, but also Xorg Foundation stuff with previously X3, even there previously X386 and Xorg, and not getting along and whatever. Anyway, comments, Markus, is the ARX firmware in the Octane newer compared to the origin? I need to check. I'm actually surprised that this one is slightly newer than I would expect. This is from 2003. If you want, I need to go really home now. I'm actually surprised that my wife, where's even my phone? My wife didn't call yet. Certainly too many live streams, too much work here today on a Saturday. This was built in 2003, which I find plenty new, maybe because it was maybe run in clusters or something professionally for many years, because I think the Origin 200 should be slightly older. So that would be, there you see professional Unix gear. They even updated the firmware. I think the Octane came out in 1996, and I think the Origin 200 should probably be around that time. So that is pretty new already, surprisingly. Anyway, Origin 200 SGI release or something, wouldn't be surprised if that also, yeah, 1996 maybe, mid-range. Let's maybe click on that. Also, this was the largest supercomputer with Linux, right? Is it documented here? Maybe not. And this is, yeah, introduced 1996, so similar to the Octane. And for that, it's a pretty damn new firmware that I have on that. And when you check Origin 200 Linux, you will find here on Linux MIPS, except of course videos from myself, which is certainly amazing. Thank you for that, Google. That IP27 here on Linux MIPS. And they had here 2000 or whatever processor series fun. In early 2001, the Origin 2000 became one of the first 32 processor systems that run Linux. A little later, Linux did boot on a 128 processor Origin 2000, of course the huge supercomputer Rex. It took like 2 months until an alpha-based wildfire system beat that record. And I think 2000, was it not first breaking 2048? I thought so, no. I'm pretty sure it was running like with 2048 or so, but whatever. But the record of 128 processors did stay for 2 years. Here's some boot up messages, maybe here or so, whatever. Yeah, many notes. Maybe we try to do this next year here on this channel. No idea if that will still work, but that would be like this is Numa Krailing, not here with myself, but the generous person, viewer, who donated this Origin 200 just for our testing fun, has 1 or 2 clusters of this in his garage or basement or something. So maybe next year I drive there and see if our Linux fun stuff boots on a cluster of Origins, because why not fun stuff in 2020. I hope you learned something. I need to go, and don't forget to like and subscribe for all the next testing and fun and Octane and other RISC-V fun stuff to come.